Hello everyone, it is June 5th and 11:53 a.m. and I'm calling this meeting of the Wakefield Youth Council into order. All right, so next on our agenda we have the Pledge of Allegiance, so we all stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Now I'm going to go over the attendance. Nathaniel?
Here.
James? Absent. Annabeth is absent. Myself present. Thomas? William?
Here.
Michaela?
Here.
Ahmed?
Here.
Madeline?
Here.
Maya? Sophia?
Here.
Juliana?
Here.
Olivia?
Here.
And Vanessa is absent, and Aaron. All right. So next on the agenda is public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak here today? All right. Seeing none. Next we have the approval of the May 14th, 2024 meeting minutes. As Thomas is not here today, I do not have those meeting minutes, so we will approve those at the start of our next meeting during the next term. So, next on our agenda is Civic Action Projects Initiative. So as we discussed at some of our previous meetings, we sent out information to I believe the 8th graders with that the spreadsheet with all of our liaison roles, and that they can reach out to us to try to help their projects get over the finish line to make it like a reality in a lot of cases. So I wanted to take the time now just to talk about if anyone was reached out to and kind of what they were reached out to about, and kind of some next steps that we could take in that front. So does anyone have any? Yeah, Sophia?
So I was reached out that youth sports should be more affordable, and I definitely agree, and we should do some sort of financial assistance to make sports more affordable, because I do dance, gymnastics, and track, and dance alone is already $10K a year, so it's kind of a lot, and I think we can do a lot more to make like sports, because they're like for fun. We shouldn't have them to be like that big of a cost.
I was reached out to in relation to, I'm pretty sure it was school lunches, and how to, I think, get student input within school lunches. I did email my student back and asked to see if he wanted me to take any specific next steps, or if he wanted any help with the formatting or with solidifying his ideas. I didn't get an email back, but it was still a pretty good idea. And I think part of it's already been implemented within the high school, because I know that a lot of lunches that we liked from last year were already recurred quite frequently this year. And they've also included what we normally have is the culinary senior final within the school lunch menu.
Hey, Michaela.
I want to add on to Sophia's point. I think that's a really good idea. I'm in a sports and society class at the high school, and one of the things we studied is the decline in youth sports and like decline of youth participating in sports, and one of the big factors is actually cost, because the cost is slowly increasing, and not just that, but a lot of kids are doing like club sports now, so not only do they play for their town, but they also play for like an outside team, so that costs extra money, and it's unfortunate for the kids who can't afford that once they get to the high school level, they can't keep up with their peers who are privileged enough to also do a club sport outside of their normal town sport. So I think that's a really great initiative.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to the point that you brought up, because I agree. I think that that's definitely a very relevant issue in Wakefield today. I know that sports can be really expensive, especially when considering, as Michaela said, kind of to reach the point that a lot of our peers are at, you do need to invest a lot more money and time into different like club sports on top of like high school sports. So what do we collectively think could be like a next step that we could take? I know that you are the liaison to the recreation department, so I think that works really well with that, talking about potential opportunities for more like scholarships, to get for more, or cost assistance with high school sports at least, and working also potentially with the school committee, I believe, which would have like the jurisdiction over that with high school sports and potentially like Mr. Kent as well.
I know a couple of students have that as their topic as well. I don't know who reached out to you. I think there was a couple that did that, and I know a couple of them, I think, were reaching out to like Mr. Kent as well.
Yeah, Olivia.
I was thinking like maybe we could have some sort of like fund at the high school. Like getting money for that might be a little harder because there's so many sports, but just some type of fundraiser where we can have money for those students because like I do gymnastics at the high school, so like the cost to actually sign up for it isn't as bad, but like you need all the things that you need for gymnastics
The
along with
associated costs,
any other
yeah.
any other sport that isn't included in the original like tuition or rate, whatever.
Yeah.
So some sort of fund would be good.
Yeah, and I think that, as you said, a lot of people don't take into account the fact that just because you pay like the participation fee, there's a lot of other associated costs, like I do swim, so your swim shorts and your cap, your goggles, and all the other stuff that comes with that, like planning for events like senior night, which comes a lot of time out of like the parents' own pockets, to like fund that type of stuff. It's important to take that into account too and see where can we try to help make it more affordable for all families so that they don't have to, so that they can enjoy it and grow from these experiences, but not suffer from like a financial burden from it. I see another hand. Yeah, Michaela?
Yeah, I was gonna say like to add on to that, like also like travel costs are really like a big part of it, especially for kids who do club sports. You know, you have like a tournament basically every weekend, and usually they're pretty far away. So that's a lot of gas money being wasted. You know, if it's a tournament in another state, you could potentially have to stay overnight, so like a hotel fee. So there's just a lot of fees that go into it, and I don't think people realize that like how expensive club sports are. So yeah, I just wanted to add on to that.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely important. I'm not sure about, I don't know, as like a government organization, I don't know how far we could go with club sports because those are like private entities. So I think that I totally agree with you that it's like something that's definitely worth looking into. I think that we would need to do a little bit more research to see if we could see with club sports specifically, whereas like high school, I think it's more apparent the path that we can take. But I do agree with you on club sports especially.
I think although in the high school there's not a formalized process for like equipment and the funds surrounding equipment, in a lot of sports, people with either old equipment or seniors graduating or people who are more into the sport that have either lightly used equipment or no places to get equipment cheap, can usually be found. So I think we do already manage the issue pretty decently, although it just isn't formalized. I also know in the high school that they have this program where if you do 2 sports, the third sport athletic fee is waived, which already helps in terms of cost. But I think what also needs to be kept into consideration is that for most sports, the initial cost is only freshman year generally, because a lot of stuff gets carried on throughout the years if you continue the sport. It's more of a startup cost in the beginning, although there might be less associated costs as the years go by.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I agree with that. It does depend on the sport, I think, though. Because I know I'm just talking from my own experience with swim, you do need to get like new equipment every year with stuff. But I definitely like how you brought up the recycling equipment that had already been used. And I think that making people more aware of that's like an opportunity instead of people going out of their way to buy new equipment when it could already exist, but they just didn't know that was an option for them. I think that that's something that we could definitely do. Yeah, Madeline.
Kind of adding on to that, I feel like we could do some sort of like drive almost where like people can like bring their gently used equipment, or like whether they've quit a sport or it's like just for like one season and now we're out of that season or whatever. I feel like we could organize something along those lines so that equipment can be used by someone else.
Yeah, I actually did a drive about a year ago. I did a leotard drive for gymnastics where it was at my gym, and I set up a box and everyone just donated their gently used leotards. Obviously, they had to be in good condition. And I actually sent all those to a nonprofit organization that helps kids, struggling financially, get them, the right equipment for sports. So I think in my experience that went pretty well. So that definitely seems like a good idea.
I like that idea, yeah. Juliana?
I know that Warrior Pride Night is tonight, so for a lot of incoming freshmen, this is when they kind of figure out what sports they want to do. Maybe in the future, we could do like a possible equipment drive or like uniform, whatever you need to participate in your sport drive. And we could maybe partner with Warrior Pride Night just to show these freshmen that, you know, it's easier to do a high school sport than you may think, and it's less daunting. Because I think the problem with a lot of freshmen is that they see all these sports and they're like, oh, I don't know which one to choose. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that in the future.
Yeah, I really like that idea because I think that that event, especially seeing that as like the initiating point for a lot of students in picking what sports that they want to do, as you said, using that as an opportunity to show that they have like the opportunities, like the resources to actually take on this opportunity, and that it's not necessarily like going to be a financial burden with the proper infrastructure in place for making sure that they have those financial resources. So I definitely think that that's a great event to kind of showcase that at. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say? Yeah.
I'd like to go back to what Liv said, because I like that idea of like having like doing some sort of fundraiser and like to give like money or like raise money for kids to do club sports, because I know I do a club sport like for dance, and like you definitely need that, because I know that the kids that don't do it are falling behind and they're not going up to varsity and they're just like staying on JV. And I think it's a good idea that we should give some sort of like financial support for kids going to club sports.
Yeah.
Because club sports I think are probably more expensive than high school sports.
Oh yeah, there's so much more expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that from this point, we can kind of separate this into like two prongs, like this plan. So one would focus on like potentially like fundraising for club sports to help students meet those costs as they can, and we can look through different opportunities like I know that we've done like grants and stuff for the past, or even like finding certain like ways in government to try to open up more financial resources for these students. And then the other side of this would be increasing the same thing in the high school, and as we mentioned, like with recycling equipment too, and opening that up at Warrior Pride Night to show that it can be more financially accessible. So Sophia, could you forward me the email that student sent to you, and then we can touch base more on this as we go forward to try to determine like this like approach in a more like thorough manner. But I really appreciate you bringing this up, because I think that that's a very apparent problem that we have, and something that we can definitely take on. So thank you. Okay. Does anyone else have any other civic action projects that they were reached out to about? So next on our agenda is the School Support Services Initiative at the high school. So I have been kind of working on this, trying to create the plan so that way I can send it back to Mr. Robinson. So kind of what I'm seeing with this right now, based on our discussion, like as the youth council, and then my individual discussion with him, that was after the discussion that Catherine and I had with the school adjustment counselors, is kind of to create this infographic or some sort of resource for incoming students and existing students to access that elucidates the far-reaching nature of the school support services at the high school, to show that three-tier system that we kind of discussed before, that starts with guidance counselors, making sure that students know that their guidance counselors are accessible, and even if they don't respond to an email, you still have like the opportunity to go and like talk to them, and they want to hear from you. They want to work proactively with you, like before something happens versus like after something happens, because they are that resource. And that ties back into our like school culture discussions, because then when they have those resources, they're more likely to be feeling more comfortable in the school with having their resources met. And then with that three-tiered system, seeing guidance counselors not only as like college or school like help, they're that social emotional help as well. And then I know that we also discussed potentially making a video. I think that we can work more on that next term, in the fall probably. We could create some sort of video in the same line as this infographic, trying to showcase everything that guidance can do in a short video. and kind of humanize that experience, that guidance isn't this like place that seems inaccessible, but it's actually like really it's accessible for all students. And hopefully this infographic that I'm discussing now, we can have it ready for the grade 9 orientation, and the guidance counselors can potentially like hand that out to all the students at ninth grade orientation, because the guidance counselors have individual discussions with their cohort of last names that they're assigned to. And I believe, and then we also do that at the beginning of the school year with all the students in general. Does anyone have any questions on this? Okay. Okay, so I'll reach back out with that as I progress in creating those components. So next on our agenda is the bike valet program for this summer. So I know I talked with Juliana about potentially doing a partnership with Safe Streets. And I also spoke with Julie Smith-Galvin because she was interested in potentially like advancing this as well, like a partnership. So Juliana, do you have anything that you want to say before I kind of talk about what I spoke with Julie?
I haven't spoken with Safe Streets yet because I haven't gotten a chance to attend the meeting.
Oh yeah, is the
Since
meeting
we talked.
today, right? They're meeting like this afternoon, or is it later this week or next
I don't
week?
think there's one today. I know
Okay.
there's one on May 22nd that I couldn't make it to. I haven't heard wind of the new one, but
Okay.
I'll check the email threads. I know there were complaints last year about how long the shifts were, and that's what turned a lot of people away from signing up.
Yeah.
So this year I'll probably make them shorter shifts, like no longer than 2 hours, because I believe last year they were 2.5 hours each. So probably like 1.5 to 2 hours, and people can sign up for multiple shifts if they want to, but they don't have to by any means. Probably just looking at what we got last year, the feedback that we got, and then using that to push it out more. I'm also gonna ask Ms. Delori Leahy to give this opportunity to the National Honor Society again, because I know a lot of people in this year's Honor Society were scrambling to finish their hours this for the year. So I think it'd be a really good opportunity again. If she pushes it out to them, I'll email her.
Yeah, definitely. I like that idea definitely to get more volunteers with that. And I like the shorter shifts idea because I know that was kind of an issue that people were having, that they didn't want to commit to that long block of time. And so, yeah, I really appreciate that. And kind of what I discussed with Julie was pretty much the same thing, talking about doing that partnership with Safe Streets instead of just Youth Council taking it on, so that way we would have more access to volunteers that would be able to staff it instead of just the Youth Council. I think that we also partnered with Youth Action Team as well. They supplied a lot of volunteers too. And so, what we discussed was potentially making a cooperative sign-up genius list between Youth Council and Safe Streets. And this is all theoretical because the Safe Streets hasn't met since we started this discussion. To set up like volunteers, and potentially not having volunteers every single farmers market weekend, so that way there's more access to, so that way volunteers aren't getting so that way we would have more opportunities to staff it with the volunteers that we have. And kind of showing that, kind of helping people understand how to set it up and put it away, because I think that was a problem that some people were running into last year, that they didn't know how to set it up or put it away or access the stuff to actually construct the bike valet. And that was generally what we discussed, and making sure that we as Youth Council can still do this event, but just with more support from Safe Streets, which was generally the main focus of that. So does anyone have anything that they'd like to say or any questions? All right. So as that progresses, I will reach back out again with whatever sign-up genius we make, or whatever definitive plan we end up going with, to make sure that we have access to volunteers, which would be helped by the Youth Council, similar to last summer. So next is liaison updates. So I have a quick liaison update. I'm going to be presenting to the town council definitively on June 10th. Kind of to cap off this term, to show them everything that we've done, and also invite any questions or any feedback from the town council as we move into next term. Does anyone have any liaison updates that they would like to share since last time we've met? next is youth council applications. So we have applications set for, the applications period has closed for next term, which will be beginning on July 1st. And I think that the applications period was extended for middle school members because there was one open spot remaining. I think we only got 2 applicants from the middle school. I think that's closing today. And then once that's closed, I'm going to get all the applicant information and I'll start reviewing those and potentially doing interviews with having alumni do that too, and I'll probably reach out to you to help with that as well. And yes, and then town council will be appointing the new youth council members for next term at their meeting in late June. So, and then if you reapplied and are reappointed, you'll get the proper information with that in mind. Does anyone have any questions on applications? All right. Next is item 11, communications outreach subcommittee update. I don't think the subcommittee has met, so are there any updates?
We've tried to schedule it like a few times,
Yeah.
but because of scheduling between the DC trip and there's just been a lot of moving parts, so we have not gotten to meet yet, but.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And I think that that's something good to think about for next term as well, I know this is like a perpetual problem that the subcommittee has had just with not enough people being available because it is so small that it relies on a smaller amount of people that have more varied schedules. So I think that that's something that we can keep in mind for next term too. But thank you for your continued
Oh my
efforts,
gosh, of course,
And if there are no questions on that, next up is item 12, which is our 2024-2025 term overview. So I want to take this opportunity just to kind of share, if you did reapply and are reappointed, which you'll find out within the next month, what that will look like is we typically have our orientation for youth council members to kind of like open up the term and just share out some information about the youth council. We usually have that in July. And then we begin our meetings in the late summer, typically early September, late August, just before school starts typically. And from there, we typically follow we're gonna follow the same manner that we followed this year. And I did receive confirmation from Town Councilor Chines that we will be getting a new town-based youth council advisor similar to Catherine's role, as well as Mr. Chines, Mr. Chines. Know that the town council liaison to the youth council, which was previously Julie Smith Galvin, who's no longer serving on the town council. They are still determining who that will be, but we will be getting a new liaison from the town council. So I just wanted to share that out with everyone which will be coming up in our next term. Does anyone have any questions on that? Oh yeah.
So I and a few other members that I've talked to have kind of found the half-day schedule to be tricky, and especially with the switch to half-days being Fridays next year.
Oh.
We're not sure what
And
that
there's
will look
not,
like.
there won't be, I was just thinking that too, there won't be one every month next year.
Yeah.
I believe.
Oh,
I think there's only 5 half-days next year, and they are on Fridays. I was actually just thinking the same thing today.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Okay, well, that's it, the Fridays. Okay, that's kind of interesting, yeah. We can, even like the current half-day schedule has not been my particular favorite.
Me neither.
So I was probably going to have us move away from half-days anyway next year. And also the only reason that we've been able to do half-days is because all of our students are from Wakefield Public Schools. If we do have a private school student, we wouldn't be able to do half-days anyways. But we will probably move into either evening meetings and making sure that we schedule that at a time that most members can do that, trying to figure out the best days that we can. I'll probably spend more time with everyone's individual schedules to find times that really work for everyone, and then probably make that consistent instead of like flip-flopping every single time we have a meeting, like with the doodle poll, because I know that that doesn't always work for everyone, because it can also switch like randomly as well. So I'll definitely spend more time doing that so we can have a consistent schedule, like, I don't know, like the first and last Tuesday of every month or something along those lines. something that'll work. Did I see a hand, Nathaniel?
Yeah, so is the new half-day schedule, is that a district-wide thing, or is that, okay, so it would affect middle school members as well.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe something, I know the scheduling does get really hard, especially with the Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
But something like, cause the doodle poll, I feel like that's a good idea, but not everyone does it.
Yeah,
So
that's
maybe
been the main problem.
some sort of like a spreadsheet where like we'll email you something like our fall schedule and our whatever, and then winter we'll do the same thing, just that way we can try to figure out a time, and then if there are any specific days where like, oh, I'm going out to dinner with my family this day, I can't come, or whatever, just implement that, so that way it's like everyone's schedule is seen at the same time versus just, oh, this person might be able to do this day.
Yeah.
Or so, something like that.
And I like that as well, because the earlier we can do it and figure out when our youth council meetings will be, the more likely that people will shape their schedules around the youth council instead of trying to fit the youth council into their schedule. Which, definitely has been like an issue. It's kind of the same issue that we're having with the subcommittee,
Yeah.
because we try to like fit it in somewhere and there's not really like a great place that it fits. So I like the idea of a seasonal planner. I like that idea, and we can definitely implement that.
I also feel like a regulated communications and outreach subcommittee meeting
Yeah.
would be a good idea too, like the day before the youth council meeting.
I was just gonna say that, kind of like falling like right before, right after,
Yeah.
to make sure that we have those opportunities, Yeah. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say on that? Yeah, Juliana.
There's also like apps on your phone which are really easy. You can create a shared calendar and everyone can just update their times. Either that or a spreadsheet, I'm sure either would work, but I just wanna put that out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good idea as well. Thank you. Thank you. I had no idea about the half-day schedules. That's interesting. I was not aware of that. Well, we'll see how that works out next year. And that and the high school time being switched, which I haven't even heard officially. I've heard that just from around that.
Wait, what?
That
They're
the end of
adding-
school will be that they're adding 5 minutes to the end of school. Instead of getting out at 2:05, we'll be getting out at 2:10.
What?
I don't.
It was
know.
part of the
It was-
teacher's contract.
Yeah, there was additional time added to the school day, and I think schools might be doing it differently, I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know if the middle school, some might be adding it in the mornings, I don't exactly know
interesting.
how I don't think it has been determined.
Yeah.
But I know the half-day thing, cause that's even, like, the academic calendar has been
Oh, okay.
already, I believe, approved by school committee for
Yeah, I
next
think
year,
it
and
was
has
sent
already
out.
been sent out,
Yeah.
yeah. And that already has the half-days on it, and it is Fridays, and there isn't one every month,
That's good to know.
there's less.
So, we'll definitely formulate around all of that to make sure that we can still meet regularly and with ease. No one has to like go out of their way to try to or like miss something else to get to youth council, making sure that we schedule it in a way that everyone is able to come and do this. Thank you. Is there anything else that anyone would like to say? All right, so next is item 13, announcements. Are there any general announcements that anyone would like to say? All right, I just want to say thank you all so much for all the hard work that you've done over this term. I know that we have some great seniors cycling off, Juliana, Vanessa, who can be here, and William as well. Thank you for all your work, especially over the past several terms, and thank you to everyone else as well. And I hope to keep seeing you next term, and as we continue working to make a difference in the youth community of Wakefield. So I applaud your efforts and I really appreciate it. Thank you all. Does anyone else have anything else that they'd like to say? All right. And thank you, Mr. Collins, as well, for all the work that you've
I
done.
believe I'll be here next year too.
I-
Next term.
I hope so too, and especially with the survey and all the stuff with school culture, that was really crucial to a lot of the work that we've done this term, so I really appreciate that. And before we adjourn, is there anything else any other business that anyone would like to touch upon? All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, I'm gonna call down the roll. Nathaniel,
Yes.
myself, yes. Michaela,
Yes.
Ahmed,
Yeah.
Madeline,
Yes.
Sophia,
Yes.
Juliana,
Yes.
and Olivia.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone.